We're continuing the debate here in Jacksonville, Florida. Let's get to the issue of transparency, because voters out there, they want to know as much about you, four gentlemen, as possible before they vote. Tax returns. Let me bring this to Speaker Gingrich. Earlier this week, you said Governor Romney, after he released his taxes, you said that you were satisfied with the level of transparency of his personal finances when it comes to this. And I just want to reiterate and ask you, are you satisfied right now with the level of transparency as far as his personal finances?
Well, you and I have a great relationship. It goes back a long way. I'm with him. This is a nonsense question. Look, how about if the four of us agree for the rest of the evening, we'll actually talk about issues that relate to governing America.
Mr. Speaker, you made an issue of this week when you said that he lives in a world of Swiss bank and Cayman Island bank accounts. I didn't say that, you did.
I did, and I'm perfectly happy to say that on an interview on some TV show, but this is a national debate where you have a chance to get the four of us to talk about a whole range of issues.
But if you make a serious accusation against Governor Romney like that, you need to explain that.
You want to try again? I mean,
wouldn't it be nice if people didn't make accusations somewhere else that they weren't willing to defend here?
Okay. All right. Okay. Given that standard, Mitt, I did say I thought it was unusual, and I don't know of any American president who's had a Swiss bank account. I'd be glad for you to explain that sort of thing.
Okay. I will. I'll say it again. I have a trustee that manages my investments in a blind trust. That was so that I would avoid any conflicts of interest. That trustee indicated last week when he was asked about this, he said that he wanted to diversify the investments that I had. And for a while, he had money in a Swiss account reported in the U.S., full taxes paid on it, U.S. taxes. There's nothing wrong with that. And I know that there may be some who try and make a deal of that, as you have out publicly. But look, I think it's important for people to make sure that we don't castigate individuals who've been successful and try and, by innuendo, suggest there's something wrong with being successful and having investments and having a return on those investments. The Speaker, you've indicated that somehow I don't earn that money. I have earned the money that I have. I didn't inherit it. I take risk. I make investment. Those investments lead to jobs being created in America. I'm proud of being successful. I'm proud of being in the free enterprise system that creates jobs for other people. I'm not going to run from that. I'm proud of the taxes I pay. My taxes plus my charitable contributions this year, 2011, will be about 40%. So look, let's put behind this idea of attacking me because of my investments or my money, and let's get Republicans to say, you know what you've accomplished in your life shouldn't be seen as a detriment. It should be seen as an asset to help America.
Mr. Speaker, I'm ready to move on if you are.
What?
I said I'm ready to move on to the next subject if you are.
I'm happy to. I'm happy to simply say, you know, it would be nice if you had the same standard for other people that you would like applied to you and didn't enter into personal attacks about personal activities about which you're factually wrong. So I'd be glad to have a truce with you. But it's a two-way truce.
I'm happy on any occasion to describe the things that I believe with regards to the Speaker's background. We'll probably get a chance to do that as time goes on.
Mr. Speaker, explain why you think that the money that he made over these many years, recent years, under your tax, hold on, Mr. Speaker, under your tax plan, we're talking about taxes right now, this is substance. Under your proposed tax plan, he would pay zero taxes. Explain that.
Well, it depends on whether the particular kind of payments he made were counted under that plan as capital gains or whether they counted as regular income. But even as regular income, he'd pay about the same. I've said this. My interest, this is where I'm the opposite of Obama. I believe we need to have somebody who fights for hardworking taxpayers. My interest is in reducing everybody's tax here to 15%, not trying to raise his to the Obama level. So I proposed an alternative flat tax. You know, I have proposed an alternative flat tax that people could fill out where you could either keep the current system, this is what they do in Hong Kong, you either keep the current system with all of its deductions and all its paperwork, or you'd have a single page. I earned this amount, I have this number of dependents, here's 15%. My goal is to shrink the government to fit the revenue, not to raise the revenue to catch up with the government, and I'd be happy. Let me just say, I would be happy to have the Mitt Romney flat tax for every American to pay at that rate, and I haven't complained about the rate he pays.
Senator Santorum, most of the polls, almost all the polls, want the wealthiest Americans to pay more in taxes in order to balance the budget. Why are they wrong, in your opinion?
Because we need to have as much money funneling through this economy as possible, and the people who make those investments are people who have resources and wealth. We want them to deploy that wealth in the most productive way possible. And when you increase tax rates and you make things much more expensive to do, in other words, the rate of return is not as profitable, then they tend up doing things like investing in non-taxable instruments and other things that don't employ people. And so what I believe is we need to reduce taxes. Look, I'm honest, I don't reduce the higher top rate as much as these other folks do. I take the Reagan approach. Ronald Reagan at a 28% top rate. If it's good enough for Ronald Reagan, it's good enough for me, and that's what we put the top rate as. And we have a bottom rate of 10%. I believe in a differential. I don't believe in a flat tax. I believe in a simplified tax code with 5 deductions and focus on simplifying, creating 2 rates. I disagree with Newt also on this. I don't believe in a zero capital gains tax rate. I don't think you need to get to zero to make sure that there's an efficient deployment of capital and investment. I think if you get to zero, then in fact, guys like Mitt Romney, who again, I wish I made as much money as Mitt Romney, but he wouldn't probably be paying much at all in taxes. And I think that as long as the tax is not one that deters a proper investment to be able to deploy capital and to get jobs created, then lower rates are better than zero when it comes to the issue of capital gains.
Are you with Ronald Reagan as far as the tax rates, as Senator Santorum has suggested, Congressman Paul?
No, he taxed too much. My goal is to get rid of the 16th Amendment, and the only way you can do that is not run a welfare system and a warfare system and policing the world. But I do want to address this subject about taxing the rich. That is not a solution. But I understand and really empathize with the people who talk about the 99 and the 1, because there's a characteristic about what happens when you destroy a currency. There is a transfer of wealth from the middle class to the wealthy, and this has been going on for 40 years. So the middle class is shrinking, they're getting poorer, and they're losing their jobs, and they're losing their houses. But Wall Street isn't getting poorer, and they are the ones who are getting the bailout. So we have to address the bailout and the system that favors a certain group over another group. If you don't have sound money and if you have a welfare state, no matter whether the welfare state is designed to help the poor, the welfare system helps the wealthy. And there has been this transfer of wealth. So if we could stop all of these transfers to the wealthy class, but the solution isn't to tax the wealthy. If you give an honest product and the customers buy that product, you deserve to keep that money and earn that money, but there's a big difference between those who earn money and those who rip us off through the government and the monetary system.
Congressman Paul, you're a physician, you're 76 years old, you would be the oldest president of the United States if you were elected. Are you prepared to release your medical records so voters out there know what your health is?
Obviously, because it's about 1 page, if even that long. But I'm willing to challenge any of these gentlemen up here to a 25-mile bike ride any time of the day in the heat of Texas. And that subject has come up, and sometimes in fun, but sometimes not in fun. But, there are laws against age discrimination, so if you push this too much, you better be careful.
I raised the question because you remember 4 years ago, the same question came up with John McCain, and he released his records finally. I remember our own Dr. Sanjay Gupta spent hours reviewing those records. So let me go down and ask all of you, are you ready to release your medical records?
Happy to do so.
I'm happy to, and I also want to attest, I'm confident that Dr. Paul is quite ready to serve if he's elected. Watching him campaign, he's in great shape.
All right, we have another question from the audience. I'll look forward to seeing your medical records. Go ahead. Let's take a question right now. Please introduce yourself as well.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Bathel. My question is, what would your plan be for the future of manned space flight and the future of NASA?
All right, let me go to Governor Romney on this one. An important issue, especially here in Florida, where a lot of people have lost their jobs as a result of the decline of the space program. Yesterday, Speaker Gingrich outlined a pretty long plan on what to do about it, and he said that by the end of his second term, if he were elected president, there would be a permanent base on the moon. Good idea?